Okay. Hi. So this is a video about making these corkscrews for your track. A lot of you have these in your design, so I'm going to show you how to make them. This is a unique piece because unlike most of the things we're going to make, like curves and loop-de-loops, you actually don't need straightened track for this. You can use the original curved metal wire for this, so you don't need to straighten it out first. To figure out how much wire we're going to use for this, basically what you need to know is that for every inch in height for one of these, you need about 4 inches of wire. So in this case, I want to make a corkscrew that's about 4 inches tall. So that means I'm going to multiply by 4. I need 16 inches of metal wire. If I wanted a 5-inch tall corkscrew, that means I need about 20 inches of wire. In addition to that, you want to give yourself a little extra wire because you want this straight part on the top in order for you to connect to the track, and you want to give yourself a little leeway on the bottom because depending on what's happening after the corkscrew, you may need to twist things around in different directions or get the ball to drop in a certain way. So give yourself, I don't know, an extra 4 inches or so. That should give you plenty. With this spool of wire here, about halfway around is about 15 inches. So I'm going to go maybe about 2/3 of the way around. That should be plenty of wire for me. I'm going to cut off a piece right there. Okay. The next thing that we need for this is we need one of these PVC pipe jigs, and these are used for spirals. They're also used for curves depending on what you need to use it for. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch PVC pipe. It's the smallest one here. It's 1/2 inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my ends of wire and I'm going to put it through the hole in the end all the way through. And this is going to help me get some leverage to bend all the way around. And then I'm just going to start bending. Come on, buddy. Come on. Okay. Get in the way here. Okay. I'm going to keep bending around, and I want to do so such that I give myself a little bit of a gap. This guy's being pain. Keep bending. I give myself about maybe a 1/2 inch gap, and I'll show you why we need that in just a second. I'm going to keep bending. Try to keep it fairly evenly spaced, but if it's not perfect, that's okay, because we're going to space it out in just a minute. Keep going, bending, bending, bending. All the way down. Okay. Towards the end, I'm going to leave a piece of track extended out that way, because again, this is how I'm going to connect it to the rest of my track. I need something to connect it to. It's really difficult to connect something like this end because you just don't have that much to solder to, or you don't have that much to connect to. So you want to give yourself, I don't know, about maybe 2-3 inches to make sure you have something to connect to. Then on the other end, I'm going to either cut this off or pull this side out. I'm just going to cut it off. Careful, because these guys like to fling all over the place. Okay? Then I'm going to take the same PVC pipe, and I'm going to use this to actually space out my corkscrew so that it'll be perfectly evenly spaced. I'm just going to wedge the PVC pipe in between one of the ends of the corkscrew, and I'm going to twist it around, kind of like keeping the PVC pipe pushed in there. I'm going to keep twisting around. And what the pipe is going to do is it's actually going to help me perfectly space out my corkscrew. Again, I want to you kind of have to force the pipe in there with your thumb so that it wants to pop out, but we need it to stay in there because that's what's spacing out the corkscrew right now. Okay. You also want to be careful because the wire can be pretty sharp on either end. So make sure you don't cut yourself. Sometimes using gloves is a better option. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going until I get to the very end. And voila. I have a perfectly straightened out, perfectly spaced out corkscrew with enough wire on the top to connect. And on the bottom I have enough space here that I can kind of manipulate it to do whatever I need to do afterwards.